The Stoner or the RPD, which is the best LMG inside the Cold War multiplayer? That is the question this video is going to answer. This video will break down the overall stats for both of the guns, comparing them to see which one is the best. If this is your first time on the channel and you enjoy watching breakdown videos like this, we have a goal set in mind to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're fast approaching that, and it would be great if you joined us. Personally, I'm not a fan of either one of these two guns, and it's because they're LMGs and therefore pretty slow. Especially in a game like Cold War where movement already feels pretty slow, it's a reason why I don't really use LMGs all that often. A lot of people talk about how they like the RPD in this game, so I thought I'd compare it to the Stoner to see if it is actually any good. So the first thing I need to show is the two class setups that we use to compare both of these guns. Firstly, we have the Stoner. We put the Millstop reflex on there. This is my favourite optic. We then use the Task Force barrel for that increase in damage, bullet velocity as well as damage range. For LMGs, the Task Force barrel does not affect recoil, but it does affect your starting ammo as well as magazine size, which is a small sacrifice to make to get that extra damage range and bullet velocity. We then use the Field Agent grip to control the recoil as much as possible, and the Serpent wrap to quicken that aim down sight speed. Finally, we went with no stock for a faster sprint to fire time. Overall, I built both of these LMGs for movement. Because it's for multiplayer, I wanted fast aim down sight times. Moving over into the RPD, there's a very similar class setup here as well. We use the Millstop reflex once again. You could choose any other optic you prefer here. Again, we use that Task Force barrel for the faster bullet velocity and longer damage range. It does increase damage, but we'll get onto that in a moment. We then use the Spetsnaz grip to control the recoil as much as possible once again. For the handle, we use the Serpent wrap for a faster ADS time, and then we use the no stock attachment again for a faster sprint to fire time. Like I said, I don't like LMGs because they're slow, so I tried to make them as fast and as snappy as possible. So that was my main focus with these attachments. You could build either one of these guns for longer distance shooting, but again, for multiplayer you don't really need that. Most of your gunfights will be below 100 meters. After actually testing both of these guns, I have realised why a lot of people like the RPD more than the Stoner. I don't know what it is about this gun, but I feel like it just has a bit more aim assist than the Stoner for some reason, even though I'm using the same optics and same attachments. On the screen here, you'll see the stats for both the RPD, which is on the right, as well as the Stoner, which is on the left. Green is some important highlight areas, blue is with the attachments added, and white is the base weapon. Looking at the number of shots to kill to the head or the body, both are exactly the same. Even the Task Force barrel does not affect the number of shots it takes to kill an enemy. The rate of fire for the Stoner is 722 rounds per minute, whereas the rate of fire for the RPD is 652 rounds per minute. And what that means is the time to kill for the Stoner is less by about 25 milliseconds compared to the RPD. Damage drop-off ranges for that first damage drop-off point is exactly the same for both guns, with and without the attachments added. So we can see without the attachments, it's 50.80 meters, and with that Task Force barrel, it doubles to over 101 meters. Moving on to an important point here, the aim down sight time for both of these guns is over 600 milliseconds. And the average for most of the other guns in the game is about 250 milliseconds to 350 milliseconds, and this is almost double. Not only that, if you consider the average time to kill in this game, which is about 250 milliseconds, before you aim down sight, someone could have killed you twice over. That's why I focus most of my attachments on reducing that aim down sight speed. So we managed to get the Stoner's aim down sight speed down to 469 milliseconds, whereas the RPD does beat it by a little at 450 milliseconds. Again, nowhere near the average, but definitely significantly better. The magazine size after we added the attachments went down from 75 down to 70. As you can see, the reload time for both of these guns is really slow, as you'd expect. This is the reload add time, which is the fastest possible reload time you can get by cancelling all unnecessary animations. So even at that, we can see the Stoner comes out on top in terms of the faster reload. The advantage in terms of bullet velocity goes to the Stoner as well, and that is with and without the attachments added. So why does the RPD feel better even though the Stoner has the advantage in most areas? It has the faster time to kill, the faster bullet velocity, and the faster reload. The RPD only beats it in terms of aim down sight time. So I wanted to figure out exactly why it is the RPD feels better, and we managed to work it out that the aim down sight movement speed with the RPD is actually quicker than the other two LMGs in the game. It's much closer to the aim down sight time of a tactical rifle, and that's why you find it much easier to track targets with the RPD over the Stoner. And this is probably one of the main reasons why a lot of people like using the RPD without actually realizing it. This is not the full reason, however, because another important factor is the accuracy of both of the guns, and whether or not you're going to be landing all of your shots. On the screen here, you'll see the recoil pattern for both the Stoner, which is in green, and the RPD, which is in blue. On the left is no attachments on the guns, and then on the right is with all of the recommended attachments from earlier on in the video. The base recoil for both of these guns is pretty horrible. I would have to give it to the Stoner because it does seem a bit more accurate in terms of horizontal recoil. But one thing to keep in mind here is that we did fire quite a lot of shots with both of these guns because they do have quite a large magazine. So we fired 50 rounds across all of the guns just to make sure that the testing was consistent. I know some of the attachments we added reduced the amount of ammo you get in a magazine, so I wanted to make sure all the testing was fair. Then on the right, we could see how well the Spetsnaz grip as well as that field agent grip help control recoil for both of these guns. And again, keep in mind this is firing 50 bullets, so that means the RPD is an absolute laser. And there's no wonder you see a lot of people using this gun in multiplayer with such a large magazine as well as such easy to control recoil. The Stoner is definitely much better, but the RPD is significantly improved. Not only that, it's way better than the Stoner with the attachments. So we can see that the RPD has the advantage in terms of movement, especially when aimed down sights. And then in terms of recoil, there pretty much isn't any if you use the correct attachments on this gun. So now it's definitely much clearer on how this gun has actually become quite popular inside the Cold War multiplayer. But the last thing we need to take a look into is the hipfire accuracy for both of these guns as well. Not that you should be hipfiring all that often with these guns anyway, but if you're in a panic and you need to fire your weapon, you're not going to aim down sights with these LMGs, it's just way too slow. On the screen here, you can see the hipfire chart. The Stoner is again in green, the RPD again in blue. On the left is no attachments, on the right is with the recommended attachments from earlier on in the video. Of course, if you added on a 5mm laser, the hipfire accuracy on the right would definitely be much tighter, but overall the hipfire for both of these guns is not the best. But I feel like regardless of the hipfire accuracy on an LMG, it's the only category of weapon that gets away with having bad hipfire accuracy, because you have a lot of ammo to play with, so even if you miss shots, it doesn't really matter that much because you have such a large magazine to burn through. I wouldn't base your decision solely on the hipfire accuracy of either one of these guns, but instead base it off of aim down sight time, movement speed, or your time to kill values. It kind of depends on what you're looking for here. If you want the fastest possible time to kill, the Stoner is the clear option. But if you like faster movement and you like to move around the map quicker, the RPD is the clear winner here. If I had to recommend one, I would recommend the RPD. It has faster movement, similar to a tactical rifle. It kills almost the same as the Stoner, and the recoil is much easier to handle. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a like as it helps us get recommended more. Also, subscribe so we can achieve our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're going to be making a lot more video in the coming days and weeks, and thank you very much for watching.